Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion. Like I mentioned at the end of the previous video, this is another episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, Season 8, that usually was on the skip list. I would usually watch it only if I was watching Season 8 as a whole. If I was just like watching random episodes, I'd skip over it. And it's not one I remember watching during the first run. Watching it, I definitely say I enjoy it more. It will definitely not be going on the random watch list though, but I'll probably watch it a little bit more often than I used to. Definitely seems like it's one that's growing on me. Probably a couple more watches and I'll enjoy it more. This of course is episode 13, Whose Side Are You On? This is one that Mike Royce was involved in the writing of. And it shows a little bit. Now, the synopsis is, Debra and the children bet against Raymond all the time. He's upset when he finds out because they make fun of him. Then he remembers that Marie used to do things like that with him and Robert about their father when they were young. Now, this is a premise that theoretically they could have done it years earlier. But it makes a little bit more sense from a writing standpoint and also a little bit from an acting standpoint to do it now that the child actors playing Allie, Michael, and Jeffrey are a bit older. Because then they could be a little bit more involved in the jokes. When they're younger, it's a bit harder. You have Allie who could do something with the twins, depending on what season you would have done this idea in. It's a little bit harder to do so. Like I mentioned a couple times already, now that the child actors are older, it's a good thing that they're throwing them a few more important gags to be in the episode. Here it's involving Debra and them making bets. Now, begins where it's another time where Ray seems like he's going to be home late again, and we've had a couple episodes center on that premise, like one back in season 2 if I remember right, where they're like, does he want to come home? Here, instead of that, it's Debra and the kids betting about when Ray shows up, what will his excuse be? Now, we the audience, having known that, we could see the tells that the four of them have as they're waiting for Ray to tell. Ray just seems nonchalant about it. He doesn't really seem to notice something's different. Of course, that plays in the fact that Ray seems to be oblivious at times. But then once his excuse comes out, we find out why. One of the person who made the bet is like, uh-huh. And of course they mentioned that, they were doing the bet about to see when Ray was going to show up. And Ray, he doesn't seem to like this because he feels like they should not be betting, Debra should not be betting with the kids. They're turning them against me. And of course to point it out that he does not notice stuff that go with the whole hair things, like my hair's not different. Oh, I'm sorry. Ray of course seems butthurt about this through most of the episode, about the bet thing. And of course, like his usual Ray self, he has to bring it up to other people. But along the course of the episode, throughout some of the gags, Ray remembers that Marie used to do the same thing with him and Robert when they were young against Frank. And I love the way that Ray Romano plays this off when he realizes, oh my god, they used to do this to us when we were kids. Like, oh no, you did the same thing, you turned us against our dad. And this is one of my favorite moments of the episode, where Ray and Robert talk with Frank. And it's just this dialogue here. This is actually the first quote you see when you look up the quotes for this episode on IMDb. This is between Ray and Frank. Listen, Dad, on the past I may be under the impression that you were maybe not such a good guy, but I'm starting to think that you may have been led to believe that you were worse than you are. And Frank is all nonchalant about it. Is like, okay. Because Frank knows who he is, so the whole fact that Ray is trying to apologize about it is like, okay, you think I'm not fat, I'm not bald, I'm not lazy? What else are you trying to tell me? And there's a lot of good back and forth in this episode. I'm going to be honest, it's been a couple weeks since I actually watched this episode, so I don't have a lot of it memorized, and a lot of it's not fresh in the head. Well, it happens when you have to postpone recording due to a lot of other craps, so sue me. There's not much else that I could really go into about this. This is probably one of the shorter episodes, but there's a lot of fun moments between the characters and back and forth, but this premise does work a lot. Yeah, it's just, like I mentioned, not one I really rewatched a lot, and Definitely not going on the VHS list, but it is a lot funner than I remember it being. And that's really all I have to say about this episode. Sorry, it's going to be a short one. There's not really much else to say. The only thing to say is the way that Ray reacts when he finds out about the bets. I definitely will agree that's an overreaction. Because the way he's treating it, it's like Debra is bad-mouthing him to the kids, saying he is not the best parent. You know, being like, yeah, your dad's a jerk, your dad's a butthead and all that. But all she's mentioning is like, when do you think your dad's going to show up tonight? Which, with how old the kids are getting, they are going to notice their dad is always home late and always giving weird excuses of why he's home late. And that more than likely it's not for the reason he is saying. So to try to treat the kids like they're idiots and make believe that they don't realize when your parent is showing home late, this says a little bit about Ray. It's not like Debra's bad-mouthing him. If Debra was, he would have a point. But for the reasons given, I'm not siding with Ray on that one. If you disagree, tell me why in the comments below. Now, the next episode is going to be one I did watch in first string, and it is one that I really did enjoy when I was younger. It probably shouldn't change too much now, and part of this ties into one of my little eccentricities with ADHD, and that is getting to a place on time. Of course, this is one involving Debra and Ray, and her always making him late. So tying into a little trope about when you go into a place, it's always the spouse that makes you late. This, of course, is going to be lateness. Till then, everybody.